Hi, folks. Welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax TV. As I, your liberty-loving Latino, have explained to you before, this program is an opinion show. We take news stories from reputable news sources, however few are remaining, and then we give you our opinions on those stories. However, the Chris Salcedo Show and many Americans have been noticing a disturbing trend. As trust in government plummets, so too does the trust in the biased press. Back during the President Obama occupation of the Oval Office, trust in government, according to the Pew Research Center, hit an all-time low, with only 17% of Americans claiming they trusted government. Now, since then, the number has been hovering in the general vicinity of swirling a toilet bowl. Compare that level of trust to the Eisenhower administration. Back in 1958, when this poll started, 73% of Americans said they trusted government back then. Now, many of you might be asking, well, what does this have to do with the media? Well, during Obama's occupation of the Oval Office, Americans saw their government turned into the enemy of we the people, weaponized against our citizens and used to benefit America's enemies. Americans didn't like that. But while all of us were watching this go on, the biased press was telling us how wonderful Obama was. In fact, the press only found room to criticize Obama when he wasn't clamping down hard enough on the American people for their liking. Many of the Obamaites in government have returned to Joe Biden's administration to fulfill Obama's third term. Ironically, those government employees are being paid by the taxpayers to do some real damage to the United States, just like they did in the Obama years. And the press is at it again, too. The majority of the press, slimy socialists, not journalists, exposing the left's infiltration of the press and the threat it poses in tonight's preamble. As socialism has infected one political party in this country, as left-wing extremists have dominated the government-run schools, so too has the cancerous effects of collectivism and collectivist thought tainted the discredited basket of biased press. From the AP to CNN, from ABC to NBC, to the New York Times to the Washington Post, unfair partisan coverage has been the stock in trade of an overwhelming number of people who laughingly call themselves journalists. You know the names: Cooper, Mitchell, Acosta, Williams, Wallace, Rule, Alcindor, Ryan, Tapper, and a host of others, fake journalists all. Case in point, this weekend on the liberal opinion channel, CNN, host Jake Tapper proved he's not a journalist with this setup to a question to controversial collectivist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
President Biden and other administration officials have signaled that they believe the Democrats can out-organize Republicans, even though Republicans are passing all these measures that, generally speaking, make it more difficult to vote.
Mr. Tapper has accepted and promoted as fact left-wing talking points on voting integrity. Many conservatives and Republicans and independents would point out that ease of voting has never been the issue. One doesn't partake in a representative republic only because it's easy to do so. The majority of Americans think that ensuring that every vote cast belongs to one eligible voter, that should be the goal of any American election. Most reasonable Americans, which apparently excludes CNN, want there to be rules so that ineligible voters can't cancel out legitimate votes. Only the left and liberal opinion channels like CNN think Americans are clamoring for ease of voting at the expense of truthful results. Real Americans simply want their legal votes to count and illegal votes to be tossed out or never allowed to be cast in the first place. But the falling trust in the left-wing press goes far beyond their presenting Democrats' words as gospel and, in turn, discrediting anything a conservative Republican says. They are losing credibility because they refuse to police their own. By now, you've seen this tactic often employed by the left-wing press. If a person on the right says something liberals deem as controversial, everyone on the right must answer for that accusation, and all are branded in that same fashion, whether the branding is deserved or not. But you may not be shocked to know that the members of the press, in typical socialist fashion, do not hold their own to that same standard. Take the case of Flora Gill. She's a London-based journalist for the likes of GQ, the Sunday Times, and the Evening Standard. She's also the daughter of a UK politician, Amber Rudd. In a now-deleted tweet, Gill wrote, quote, "Someone needs to create porn for children. Hear me out. Young teens are already watching porn, but they're finding hardcore, aggressive videos that give a terrible view of sex. They need entry-level porn. a softcore site where everyone asks for consent and no one gets choked, etc., end quote. Now, this suggestion obviously is deviant, it's sick, it's perverted, but only conservative media is understandably upset and calling this journalist out. I checked. As of this morning, none of the people or entities we'd classify as journalists in the mainstream press have batted an eyelash at one of their own sick and twisted suggestion. But it looks like Americans are starting to take notice on the double standards being pushed by deviants in the press. We, the people, are starting to notice how actions conducted by the Republicans are being cast as capital crimes, and how those same actions, when done by socialist Democrats, are being ignored or lauded as a positive. Case in point. Now that Biden has lost control of the pandemic, is he as unqualified as the press claimed Trump was? For over a year, the press blamed President Trump for increased cases and deaths attributed to the China virus. Now that Joe Biden, through his importation and releasing of China virus positive illegal aliens into our society, he's also overseeing a massive spike in China virus cases, the press doesn't blame him. Instead, they blame the GOP and Trump voters. Americans are noticing how the biased press will throw everyone else but a Democrat under the bus to protect Biden the boob and his party. Here's another example. Perhaps the press can tell us why allowing 2 million illegal aliens to come into the country every year, thousands of them with a virus, is good for America. Right now, the failed Supreme Court Justice nominee Merrick Garland is suing the state of Texas to prevent our law enforcement from stopping Biden from transporting China virus cases on land through Texas. However, California, a state which is in open violation of federal law on multiple fronts, from allowing illegal aliens to vote, to giving them jobs in state government, to openly refusing to assist federal authorities in the arrest and deportation of dangerous illegal aliens, they get no lawsuits or threats from Team Biden. And the press, well, they just play it right along. Perhaps our illustrious liberal media can tell us how hyperinflation, an economic condition that is currently harming minorities and the working poor alike, is good for the United States and our people. Maybe the left-wing luminaries at CNN and MSNBS can tell us how introducing racial strife and division into schools and the military is better for our people. Perhaps Chris Wallace, Anderson Cooper, Don Line, Chris Cuomo, Joyless Reed, and the rest can tell us how killing American energy projects and promoting Iranian and Russian energy projects is better for America and the planet. Few of the stories covered by the majority of the press make sense until you accept that they are left-wingers, until you accept they are biased. They don't share our values articulated in the Constitution anymore. Like radical jihadists, the majority in the press is using our freedom, including the First Amendment, using our strengths against us. So what's the solution? Well, that's easy. The solution is you. You know, over the weekend, my little girl said to me, "Daddy, I'm getting news updates on my phone. I didn't ask for them. Why are they sending these things to me?" I had no other choice but to tell her that it was an effort by the American left to make sure that they control the messaging, the information, and the debate. And that unsolicited attempts like that one, they were meant to stifle debate, reason, and critical thinking. Sky News from Australia was just kicked off the YouTube platform. What was their crime? Discussing the efficacy of lockdowns and masks. In America, free speech used to be prized as one of our most important guarantees. Ironically, that freedom is contained in the same amendment that allows for a vibrant and free press. But our press uses their freedom to stifle other people's freedoms. As our trust in an all-controlling government rests in the toilet, it's wholly appropriate and natural for trust in the left-wing press, a press that supports totalitarian government, to tank as well. Many Americans know by turning them off and tuning them out, it may be the only way that debate, discussion, and truth will survive in the United States.